Hello, hello to all of our change makers. Here we are again with another edition of Celebrating Change Makers. And I am just so excited, so blessed to be in the same state with this one. I didn't even know it. How awesome. So, welcome today, Cecily Henderson. Please tell people a little bit about yourself and what makes you so awesome because there's a lot.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. It's so good to see you. I think we connected last year sometime, and I
Mhm.
just love what you're doing. You and your husband, the amazing, incredible things that you're doing to spread hope and love and light to others. So thank you. It's an honor to be here. Very, very grateful. My name is Cecily Henderson. I am a certified health coach practitioner. I am a wife, mother, grandmother, women's health advocate, cancer survivor, twice cancer survivor.
Wow.
I was paralyzed from a breast implant rupture for 7 years. So I spent 7 years in a wheelchair
Oh my God.
and had severe arthritis. I have an autoimmune illness that the gene expression was turned on, and now I have ankylosing spondylitis, which is a bone disorder and connective tissue disorder. Yeah, sometimes it really affects me, but I'm doing great. After I took my implants out, a year later, I was walking healthy. I was walking and I was healthy. I was normal, doing well. Took a
Oh,
few years to recover completely, but yeah, I'm doing great. I've got lots of incredible stories. My movement, the thing that I am focusing on, which is very similar to what you're focusing on, is hope and bringing
mm,
people hope to their life, which is to me is the opposite of fear. I
yes.
lived in fear for 15 years. I had severe anxiety disorder, fear, but everything was fear based. I thought I was going to lose my life several times and was in a constant state of anxiety. And
Mm,
so being able to find that hope through through angels here on earth that helped me. So the people that helped me on this earth, this brought me a lot of hope, and then also finding strength through a higher power that also
mm,
helped me overcome a
mm.
lot of different things. So that's what I'm here to share my story, give hope, utilize my abilities as a health coach practitioner to help people heal, from the physical aspect. But the hope is what I really want to focus on
Mm.
today is talking about that.
Oh, and I love that because, there's so darn many things happening in the world today that leave so many people feeling hopeless. And, that is the number one thing we need more of in the world is hope. It just, and especially when it comes to healing. Now, sometimes I'm talking about healing finances as well as healing body, but body, mind, spirit is really what I'm all about healing. And I'm pretty sure that's kind of where you sit as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about, you call yourself a practitioner. How is your training different perhaps than some of the others out here? How do you specifically help people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm not a doctor.
Mhm.
I've worked with doctors. I've worked very closely in conjunction with doctors for functional medicine. Like I've been trained on it. So basically, what I do is I coach people, give education to people who are looking for healing.
Mhm.
If they, especially through functional medicine, I also offer functional testing. I'm under a doctor's license. I offer functional testing. So if people want to know have they been exposed to mold? Is their microbiome, um, do they have a dysbiosis, which means a dysfunction in the gut and the intestinal tract of the microbiome, also oral microbiome? Yeah, and then hormone health. I work with a lot of
Mhm.
women that have hormone issues and have a dysfunction with the hormone balance. So
Yeah.
there's several things that I help. I don't diagnose because I'm not a doctor, but I do give a lot of education and information to help people work with their doctor so that they know. Because when you approach a doctor and you have the information already, it's like clockwork. The doctors just kind of hone in on it and they're like, wow, let's try this, let's try this. And usually people get answers to whatever
Mhm.
their struggles are because they are educated on it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So even though you're not doing diagnosing and such, you are able to channel somebody into testing that a functional medicine doctor would do. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, basically
Okay.
coaching them, giving that information and educating so that when they approach their doctor, they're gonna be very well educated and be able to work with their doctor to get those answers.
Probably more educated than some of the doctors out here.
I'm not saying you said it,
I
not me.
said it
I had
quite purposely.
12 years of schooling, so 3 degrees I'm working on right now, so but anyway.
Well, and, to be fair, I mean, I'm very vocal about the fact that I do not blame the medical community for their lack of knowledge, especially in the nutritional realm, because they're not taught it.
Exactly. See, you said it right there. They don't know. And
It's
so in fact, I'm going to back to school to become a health educator so I can work in hospitals. I can work directly in doctor offices to help educate patients on
nice.
specific topics. And, one of them is breast implant illness, which is not recognized. And that's what I had for 14 years was breast implant illness.
Wow. Wow. And paralyzed because of it. I think you might have been the first person I ran into that I had even knew that this was an issue, and yet now I think I know several people. So, oh my goodness, horrible, horrible what you went through, and talk about miracles in terms of where you are today. Which brings up a really good question. I know you're all about spreading hope, and I know that you've had guidance and assistance in your journey. I mean, have you got a story you're willing to share about how you know that there is a spiritual connection that we all have access to?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to share a story. In fact, it was July 4th, 2014. So it was
Ooh,
Independence Day 2014. My legs had collapsed February 2014 and I was completely paralyzed. My husband rushed me to the ER. My nervous system was shutting down. I couldn't swallow. At one point I couldn't swallow and it was affecting my breathing and they rushed me to the IMCU. Thankfully, a very intelligent, intuitive doctor who put me on medication. It relaxed my nervous system enough where it didn't shut down and I was still continuing to breathe. Then I had to go through therapy to learn how to swallow all over again.
oh my
So
goodness.
I was in the hospital for several weeks. And once they released me, I was home paralyzed. I was without a wheelchair. I was trying to take care of my family. So I remember when I had to use the bathroom, I was on my stomach and I was trying to drag myself across the room, getting myself to the bathroom. And at that point I was starving, trying to take care of my family because my husband was working.
Mhm.
And my sister said, I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come. We're and my all my sisters paid for a ticket. She came, she helped me, she, nursed me at that time, took care of my family. And then 3 weeks later, I ended up back in the hospital again.
Mm,
Now,
mm,
every time I went to the hospital, I had an IV treatment. This was a 10-hour IV treatment every day for 2 weeks. So if
mm.
you could imagine the number of IV needle pricks that were in my arms, and I took pictures. I actually have pictures of all these needle pricks where I had tons just up and down, up and down my wrists and on my across my arm, and then they started trying to get to my legs, which was a no-go. I couldn't stand it. And so they would access my veins in my arms. And I remember being in the hospital just crying and crying and crying and crying because if you can imagine these 10 hours every day, right, that I have to be hooked up and sometimes the vein would pop so they have to prick me again. And
Oh,
so
oh,
each time I would say about 20 to 30 needle pricks that I'd be in the hospital every 3 weeks to do this.
uh,
And the amount of puncture wounds, I was having nightmares that they were poking needles into my head during this time because I was so traumatized by it, and
uh,
my arms were so swollen. And so it was July to just fast forward July 4th. um, we had finally gotten a wheelchair for me and my husband. I was in the wheelchair. We went to a Independence Day church party. So there was this little picnic that was going on, and I remember my husband getting me out of the car, and I told him, I said, I'm having problems swallowing again, and I
Mhm.
probably, I this was about 3 weeks after the last hospital visit, and I told him, don't bring me to the hospital.
Mm.
I'm just gonna let my body die naturally. Don't I
What?
can't stand it. I said, "I can't stand these needle pricks anymore. They hurt so bad. I just wanna die. This is torture." And I remember my husband's face. He was so he was I could tell he was just in panic mode, but he didn't say anything. He didn't know what to say because he knew he saw the pain and the torture I was going through. So he wheeled me, up to the party. There was a table. He said, "I'm gonna go get some food." So he left me there at the table. And I remember this was such a momentous moment because I was sitting there feeling so alone. And I remember praying and thinking, okay, God, this is it. I want to let you know that I'm going to let my body die naturally. I'm not going to the hospital. And I want to thank you for my life. I'm going to try to prepare. I'm talking to this higher power saying, preparing myself to die, trying to go through the checklist. Okay, how can I talk to my children? Trying to do how can I do this in a matter of a few days? Because I knew in a few days I would stop being able to swallow. And then the breathing, I would not be able to breathe. And I remember distinctly somebody had tapped me on the shoulder, and I looked to my right, and there was one of our church members there, and he was one of the doctors. He was at a local hospital, and so he kind of understood the situation. He knew that I had these different attacks, and so he asked me how I was doing, and I told him, I said, "Look, I'm not going into the hospital. I'm not going back there. I'm just going to let nature take its course and let myself pass away naturally." And he went pale. I remember his face going a little pale, and he said,
Wow.
"Cecily, I have the solution. I have the solution for you."
Oh.
And he told me, I am head of the interventional radiology department here at the hospital, and I'm going to put a port in you. This is going to prevent them from they can access the little port. It's a little device, medical device that in fact, here's my little port right here.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and he said they'll access this device so it doesn't hurt. The device goes directly to your vein. It connects to your vein, and all they have to do is a little teeny, teeny, teeny poke that they put right here. You can barely feel it. And that's where they'll access it every time, and they don't have to poke your arms anymore. And he says, I'm going to call you in a couple of days, so just be ready. And
Mm.
at that time, I'm like shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, did this just happen? Right?
Wow.
Because usually it takes months. It takes months and months to get referrals to this kind of surgery. You have to go through your doctor, you have to get referrals, then you have to go in for surgery and all that preparation. And I didn't have that time. I only had a few days before I knew this was going to happen. My body was going to shut down. And I told my husband when he came back, and he was like, "Oh my gosh." And we both felt this hope, like this hope welling up. So
Mhm.
I went home, waited, and yep, sure enough, 2 days later, that night, the doctor called. He said, "Be ready, don't eat anything. Come first thing in the morning. I'm gonna we'll get you all set up for surgery." Came in the next morning, everything went perfect. Signed the
Wow.
paperwork, surgery went perfect. This beautiful little pediatric port right here that they put in, no problems, complications at all. And I went home. I wasn't groggy. I was feeling really good actually after surgery. And then that night I started having difficulty swallowing, like really a lot of really difficult. And so my husband brought me to the hospital the next day, and they accessed my port. I had no pain. There was no pain. There was not, I was
Wow.
fine. I was good. And
Wow.
I remember laying there in bed, you know, just knowing that there's a higher power that loves me
Wow.
and knew that I was in so much pain. I was ready to die. And he prepared a way. He just
Yep.
stepped in.
Yep.
Sent that angel at the right time, I mean, I'm talking about days, like a moment. This was an urgency.
Yep.
And here I am
Wow.
today. In fact, I just contacted this doctor because I wrote out this story. I'm writing a book because
Mhm.
this is one experience I've had out
Wow.
of probably hundreds of experiences.
Wow.
And I'd contacted this doctor to thank him and showed him the chapter in this book that was dedicated to him and told me how much he loved me.
Aw.
And he was so grateful to be that angel for me that day that helped
Wow.
save my life. So that's just one story. Um, but it's a testimony that there is a higher power out there that loves you. And us,
Absolutely.
we are the angels. We get out there to help people. We are the ones that are inspired
Yes.
to connect with other people and to
Yes.
take that opportunity. Because if that doctor didn't, if he didn't take that opportunity to find out how I was doing, I wouldn't
Yep.
be here today. I would not.
Oh, I get it. I'm sitting here going, "Okay." Definitely, I get it, and I don't blame you. I mean, yeah, you can I can't even begin to imagine how tortured you felt, but yeah, and it's funny because I used almost those same kind of words with my son recently because he's kind of struggling with his faith a bit, and I'm like, "No," I said, I said, "You've been inspired," because he got mad at me because I said that God's got us and he always provides a way. And he was like, "Well, I did this for you, and I did that for you. So why are you giving God all the credit?" And I said, "It's very simple." I said, "God inspires people. God inspired you." I said, "There is no greater act of love than for you to decide to take action on God's inspiration." I said, "So yes,
Absolutely.
you get the credit for that, but I know where the inspirations come from." And he was like, "Oh,
That's a perfect way of saying that. That's absolutely. He works through us, and because we are taking that opportunity, I feel so blessed when I can help somebody else. Truly
yes,
blesses my life.
yes."
And then we're both blessed. The person that you help and yourself. We're both
Mm,
blessed. And it's such a beautiful combination of love that love and service that you're giving to others. And then that is fast forward, then they can serve. This doctor served me. Now I
yes,
can serve others. And
absolutely. See, and that's amazing because, God basically said, "No, Cecily, it's not your time to go. You have my
yeah,
work to do."
that's right. Yep, and the hardest part for me, and I know people ask this, is like, why I had a friend that passed away recently. She had, breast implant illness, and she had the same thing. Her body was breaking down. She was paralyzed. She was
Mm,
having difficulty breathing, and she ended up passing away from it. She left her children, and I know I tried to help her. I told her, "Hey, this is the medication the doctors gave me. This is what kind of kept it at bay." And the doctors refused to give her that medication. They wouldn't give it to her. And
mm,
so she ended up passing away. And I'm thinking, why? Why am I here and why is she not here? And I really had to work through that. And
mm.
then I reminded myself that, there's a purpose. There's always a purpose.
Yeah.
And she had fulfilled her mission. She had fulfilled the purpose that she was here on this earth. And
Mhm.
it's just one more motivator for me to get my message out, and my message out for women's health advocacy for breast implant illness, and also hope, because despite despite all the times that I've faced death, because I faced death more than that, more than just once,
Mm,
and all the times that I faced death, that's just the next part of your existence, right? The next step in your existence, and not to be afraid, not to
mm.
have that fear, because fear had surrounded me with that. And having peace that, if you're doing the best you can, No matter what you believe, you're doing the best you can. You have whatever opportunity, whatever that love that you have given is going to come back to you tenfold. So that's why I'm like, don't fear. If you're a good person, don't fear. Just
Mhm.
don't.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Whew, I love it, and how interesting that that all happened at a church, you know, and you were right there with your prayers and just saying, "Hey, this is where I'm at, God." So, wow, what a powerful story, and thank you so much for being willing to share that because I do believe, one of the things my husband and I learned last year is that suicide is the second leading cause of death of 10 to 18-year-olds. And I believe that one of the main reasons for that is because they don't have hope.
Yeah.
So, your stories definitely I pray that you will tell more of them, that you will allow more people to share in that with you because that is what we need. We need these younger generations to understand. I mean, some of the schools that have been feeding them full of ideas that really concern me, and I think it's just horrifying that they don't see hope. They don't feel like they can make a difference in the world. And if people can come back from what you've been through and be able to get new education, be able to go out here and not only share your stories but now share your wisdom, share your knowledge, share your experiences. I mean, that is one of the most beautiful sources of hope that anybody can be. So I'm grateful that you are still with us and you are able to share all of that with other people because, yes, God knew what he was doing. You are very much needed on planet Earth.
Thank you, Shan. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing and for the love that you're giving to people because that it is very much needed. Those young people need that love and that hope for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely going to do more to try to educate. And and like I said, just in the last week my husband have found out that there's more young people who are searching. They're searching for how do we naturally heal. They're searching for how does that work and why does that work. I mean, I've been that has been a source of hope for me, that there are a lot of younger people who are searching for these things. And to me, it's talking about nature's medicine, which is directly connected to the creator. He created a lot of stuff for us here, and I'm just thrilled that some are really searching for that. So I have to ask, and again, knowing these things change, and especially as we evolve, but do you have any big vision for the future? Where do you think all of this might be leading you?
Well, I'm definitely moving toward a movement of hope and
Mhm,
trying to connect other healers, coaches, practitioners, whoever's focusing on hope, whether it's
mhm.
mental, spiritual, physical, it doesn't matter. Anybody who's focusing on that hope and that light, I want to connect them and have the most and be able to support them in their movements of hope and just create this big, beautiful hope movement and get it out there to as many people as possible. And God willing, we'll get it out there.
Yes, I agree, and, I don't remember if I told you, but the 501(c)(3) my husband is director of now is called the Hope Institute. So,
I love it.
yes. I think I might have made mention recently that I have to believe that somewhere we're supposed to work
Yes,
together.
that's right. I and that is that's exactly what I want to do. Connect people like you and others and get and just spread that word of hope until
Yes.
it incorporates every single part of this earth. That's what I anybody that has that internet, access, I want to be able to connect with them. There's actually a lot of plans in the works. So, I I'll leave you with one last thing, one last story. So, I told you I'm going back to school. I want to get my certified health education license. And then
Mhm.
that way I can work with the doctor, I can work in the hospital. And there was a story recently in one of our assignments, and it was talking about grandmothers that they're called bench grandmothers. And in some of these third world countries, it started where this grandmother was sit there, and these women that were given over to prostitution, they were getting pregnant and didn't know what to do. And there was a lot of suicide going on at the time,
Mm.
especially these pregnant mothers.
Mhm.
And so the grandmothers would go on the bench, the parks, and they would sit there and wait for these young girls to come, and they would just sit there and listen to them and talk and give advice and just be there for them. And the suicide rate went down so significantly that they started doing it across the just the world. Now I think it's a world renowned program that they utilize in different places, especially third world countries. And
Wow.
I'm like, what if we could do that here online?
Mhm.
What if we could do that and implement that in a way where, you don't have to worry about licensing or anything, but you just have somebody listening, not giving advice, just somebody listening, being there, loving that person, helping, just giving, lending that love and that light to them. And so
Yes.
that is a goal that I've been kind of thinking about
Wow.
lately.
Wow. I love that. I think I had heard something about that too. Somebody had told me that it was something that was happening in areas in Africa. So
Mhm,
that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, how often, I mean, in this country, I know there's such things now as, peer support lines. So, you've got your suicide prevention line 988 or whatever it is, but there's also peer support lines. I know in North Carolina they've got one. And just that act of feeling like somebody is honestly listening to you is huge. There's a guy who does a podcast called The Question Guy, and I'll never forget when he interviewed me and then turned around and wrote this article about me. I cried
mhm.
because he heard me in a way that a lot of people didn't. And, so yeah, that's a huge part of what I think our spirits are craving is, that level of connection. So I'll be happy to hold that vision with you.
Awesome, yeah, well, and, that's the thing is there's so many people that are trying to give hope. I've met some amazing people such as, yourself and your husband, and it's like utilizing these talents and these gifts of giving hope to people in some way,
Mhm.
and that's in the progress. That's the wheels turning right now.
Absolutely. Well, and of course, the founder of the Hope Institute, he's also one of our business partners, and he's created a whole coaching program called Hope. And that, for him, the acronym is honesty, openness, pure love, in essence. So that's what he's all about. So perhaps somewhere you might connect with him as well.
Yes, I would love that. I would love it.
Cool deal. Cool deal. Well, I appreciate you sharing so much amazing stuff with us today. How can people reach you? Tell them where to find your Facebook groups and anything else you care to share.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm on Facebook, obviously, under Cecily Henderson, but please feel free to join my group. It's the Hope for Healing Network. And
Mhm.
if you are a coach and you're giving hope, I have an exclusive professional group called the Hope Healers Network. Please join the Hope Healers Network. We need people like you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Any final words of wisdom you care to leave people with today?
I think when people are in their darkest moment and they've given up, they've lost hope, I think the best advice I can give is reach out to somebody. Just reach out. And those people will be put in your life. Just keep trying to connect because that person will find you that is there to help and support you. Don't isolate yourself because that's what I did as I put myself in 4 walls and isolated myself and didn't connect with anybody, and it was
Mm,
so lonely. So reach
mm.
out to people. That is the number one advice I would give.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cecily. You are an honor to know, and the beauty that you're putting out here just radiates off you. So thank you for being with us, and thanks to all of our change makers for checking in. And if Cecily's message about hope resonates with you, then you need to connect in with her groups and get involved because you know, one of my favorite sayings is, "We are the miracle we're looking for." So let's pull together and be that miracle. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you in our next interview. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.